The movie begins in a place with a board called the message board, a communication tool used to contact the town's bounty hunter, Ryo. Ryo takes on special operations for money, alongside his friend Makimura, a former police officer who left the force. A woman leaves a message on the board saying her sister is missing and asks Ryo to find her. Ryo meets the woman, who explains that her sister, Kurumi, went to meet someone and hasn't returned since. Ryo gathers the necessary details and takes Kurumi's photo to begin his search. Next, we see Ryo on a high rooftop observing the city, trying to locate Kurumi. However, instead of focusing, he's watching women because he's notorious for his love of women. Makimura scolds him, reminding him of their mission. Ryo eventually refocuses and spots Kurumi with a group of people, deciding to use an alternate plan. Makimura sarcastically remarks that Ryo never had an original plan. Ryo throws a rope to a building across the street and swings over to infiltrate the location where Kurumi is being held. Before Ryo arrives, Kurumi is being beaten by her captors to force her to confess something. Ryo bursts in just in time, reassures Kurumi he's there to rescue her, and effortlessly takes down the captors one by one. After eliminating the enemies, Kurumi is terrified of Ryo and tries to run away. Ryo tells Makimura to help catch her and bring her back to her sister. Kurumi runs, and Ryo and Makimura chase after her. As they close in on her, they are ambushed by a group of attackers from both sides. A fierce fight ensues, but Ryo and Makimura are stronger and manage to defeat them. However, Ryo is shocked to discover that Kurumi has escaped through a window. Surprised by how a young girl could pull off such a move, he jumps after her, while Makimura follows in the car. They both chase her, eventually cornering her. They explain that her sister hired them to find her. Suddenly, veins appear on Kurumi's face, and she leaps onto a car, escaping again. In the process, she drops 2 vials containing a strange liquid, which Makimura secretly picks up without telling Ryo. A police officer named Saeko, who knows Ryo and Makimura, appears and confronts them about numerous complaints involving their brawls, destruction, and possession of weapons. She warns them about getting involved with the dangerous Akutsu gang, but is met with vague responses from Makimura, who claims the matter is classified. Saeko mentions there have been reports of violent outbreaks lately that result in people's deaths, and that the police are busy dealing with them. She accuses Ryo and Makimura of wasting her time, leading to playful banter between them. Another officer, Ito, wants to arrest Ryo and Makimura, but Seiko stops him, saying she's still interrogating them. She lets them go, and as they drive off, Ryo questions Makimura about what he pocketed during the chase with Kurumi. Makimura avoids answering. They head to a restaurant where Makimura's adopted sister, Kaori, is waiting to celebrate her birthday. Makimura is late, and Ryo teases him about whether he'll finally tell Kaori that she was adopted. Makimura says he has to keep his promise to his late father to tell her when she's old enough to understand. Ryo leaves, promising to pick Makimura up later. Makimura sits with Kaori, who mentions that she knows about the message board. He wants to tell her the truth about her adoption, but can't bring himself to do it. Suddenly, a truck crashes into the restaurant, and a man with veins like Kurumi's face steps out. Makimura notices the man grabbing a knife, and as the man lunges at him, Makimura stabs him in the shoulder. The man pulls the knife out and stabs Makimura multiple times. Ryo arrives just in time, and a dying Makimura gives him the 2 vials he took from Kurumi, asking him to take care of Kaori. Makimura dies, leaving Ryo determined to avenge his friend. Ryo returns to the message board and finds a note from Kaori asking him to contact her. Meanwhile, at the police station, Saeko reviews the restaurant's security footage and notices Makimura handing something to Ryo before he died. She tries to call Ryo, but he doesn't answer. Ito arrives and asks Saeko if she's learned anything from the video. She tells him the only common element in all the crimes is the appearance of a violent individual whose physical strength becomes unnaturally enhanced. She suspects it might be caused by a virus or some kind of drug. Ito, however, is convinced that Ryo is responsible for Makimura's death and insists their priority is to find the person who killed Makimura to understand what's happening. Meanwhile, Kari continues searching for Ryo and finds him drunk and surrounded by women. She confronts him, saying she left a message on the board and he didn't contact her. Ryo claims he doesn't know what she's talking about. She pleads with him to help her find her brother's killer, but Ryo refuses and walks away. Undeterred, Kaori starts asking people on the street if anyone saw her brother, hoping to find a lead. When two men attempt to kidnap her, Ryo intervenes just in time and tells her to go home for her own safety. The next day, Kaori goes to Ryo's house. She tells him this is the place where Makimura spent most of his time, so there must be some clue about what happened. She searches the apartment until she finds a gun. Ryo explains that it was Makimura's gun and represents the life he led. He advises her to stop digging into the past and forget everything for her own good. Later, we see Tokyo police officers Saiko and Ito at the scene of another crime. The person who killed Makimura is now dead. Saiko notices veins on the corpse's face and neck, becoming more certain that something sinister is behind these incidents. Kurumi reappears at the same crime scene. When she arrives, she finds a message that leaves her visibly shocked. Kaori remains determined and continues watching Ryo. She insists again that he help her. Ryo finally agrees, but warns her that if she's so determined to enter his world, she must not interfere with anything she sees. He leads her to a venue where a performance is taking place on stage. Kaori follows Ryo as he enters a private area and meets an old man named Aki, who is revealed to be the leader of the Akutsu gang. Aki respects Ryo so much that upon learning his men had attacked Ryo, he ordered them all to be punished as an apology. Aki discusses the recent events in the city, including young people experiencing violent outbursts, causing destruction, and then dying shortly after. He reveals that Kurumi was among those affected, but was the only one who didn't die. However, since Ryo intervened during her captivity, they couldn't gather more information. Aki tells Ryo he will allow him to continue investigating and promises to share any findings. However, he warns Ryo to be careful, as it appears some company is conducting experiments on humans with a mysterious drug. The priority now is finding Kurumi, as she may hold the key to understanding everything. Kaori immediately runs off to search for Kurumi, questioning people on the streets. Ryo finds her and scolds her for her reckless behavior, warning that no one will reveal anything to her. While they're talking, Kurumi suddenly appears. Ryo tells Kaori to listen to him, but she ignores him and runs after Kurumi. Naturally, Kurumi gets scared and flees, with Ryo and Kaori chasing her. The pursuit leads them to a nightclub. A man threatens Kurumi with a gun, attempting to kidnap her, but Ryo shoots him, causing everyone in the nightclub to panic and flee. Kurumi manages to escape, and Kaori follows her. Kurumi, feeling dizzy, begins recalling that she was kidnapped along with others, injected with a certain substance, and stole 2 vials of it before escaping. These were the same vials that fell from her, and were given to Ryo by Makimura before he died. Kurumi collapses, but later regains consciousness to find herself with Kaori and Ryo. She tries to leave but is still too weak. Frustrated, she tells Ryo to stop chasing her, to which he replies that he's only looking for her because her sister asked him to. Kurumi angrily reveals she doesn't have any siblings, meaning the people after her must be the same ones who injected her with the substance, as they are after the vials she took. Ryo pulls out the vials and places them in front of Kurumi, explaining that they were with his partner, who was killed. Initially hesitant, Kurumi finally starts talking, sharing that she was searching for her boyfriend Kento, who disappeared. During her search, she was kidnapped, injected with the substance, and after waking up, stole the vials and escaped. Ever since, they've been hunting her. Ryo tells her it's too dangerous for her to be outside and suggests she stay hidden with him for a while. Elsewhere, we see the woman who claimed to be Kurumi's sister, whose codename is Scorpion. She meets with the leader of the organization she works for, who reprimands her and her partner Ami for failing their mission and demands they capture Kurumi immediately. The leader reveals they have chips implanted in their necks, allowing him to control or kill them remotely. They recite the organization's motto, "For the sake of unity," before resuming their search for Kurumi. Later, Saiko meets with Ryo, revealing that toxicology reports from the deceased show traces of a drug called angel dust. The drug stimulates the brain for several days, greatly enhances muscle strength, and induces aggressive behavior. However, once its effects wear off, the user dies. Ryo tells her he's aware of the drug, which was banned after being used briefly during World War II due to its inhumane effects. Its reappearance suggests someone is developing it further. If the side effects are eliminated, it could become one of the deadliest drugs in the world. Kurumi is the only person to survive its effects, making her a prime target. Before leaving, Saiko mentions a similar case from 20 years ago, where a man became aggressive and attacked a police officer. The officer killed him, but later adopted the man's orphaned daughter. That officer was Makimura's father, and the daughter is Kayuri. Makimura had been investigating the drug alone until his death. Ryo is left shocked, unsure how to tell Kayuri this. Returning home, Ryo finds Kayuri and Kurumi have become friends. Kurumi mentions she must attend a masquerade party hosted by a major makeup company and asks Ryo to protect her. Kaori offers to help, but Ryo refuses, citing the danger. Kaori then shows him a picture of Tsukinoshita, the CEO of the company, a beautiful woman. Knowing Ryo's weakness for women, as expected, Ryo immediately agrees to attend. At the party the next day, Ryo and Kaori dress in disguises to protect Kurumi. Tsukinoshita meets Kurumi and compliments her. During the event, Ryo spots 3 men he suspects are from the organization hunting Kurumi, but they turn out to be regular photographers. He simply ruins their shots to protect her identity. Soon after, Ryo hears the sound of a weapon being cocked and notices Ami aiming several tranquilizer darts at Kurumi. Ryo intervenes, rescuing Kurumi and carrying her away. Ami calls Scorpion for backup to intercept Ryo. Scorpion confronts Ryo, and a fierce battle ensues. Meanwhile, Kurumi and Kaori try to escape, but are stopped by Officer Ito and a female officer, who show their badges and take Kurumi into protective custody. Back at the fight, Scorpion ignores Ami's orders to retreat and continues battling Ryo. Ryo tries to get information about her employer, but the fight rages on. Finally, Scorpion attempts to inject herself with the drug, declaring the organization's motto, "For the sake of unity." Before she can do so, Ryo sedates her using one of the tranquilizers intended for Kurumi. Scorpion loses consciousness and is captured. At the same time, Kurumi is missing, and no one knows her whereabouts. Saiko tries to contact Ito for Scorpion's interrogation, but finds that he too has disappeared. While transporting Scorpion for questioning, she suddenly recites the organization's motto, activating the chip in her neck, which kills her. Later, Kurumi is shown tied up with Ito. 2 members of the gang arrive, handing Ito a bag of money and taking Kurumi with them. The bag, however, contains a bomb, which detonates before Ito can leave the area. At home, Ryo is tending to an injury on his arm when Saiko calls to inform him about what happened. Kaori then speaks with Ryo, blaming herself for everything that has occurred. She admits that she always knew Makimura wasn't her real brother, but loved him because he was her entire family. She vows to bring justice to those responsible for his death. Ryo reassures her, saying he isn't angry. He recalls Makimura's final words, which were to take care of Kayori. Together, they resolve to rescue Kurumi and avenge Makimura. They begin preparing for their mission, with Ryo giving Kayori Makimura's gun and a bulletproof vest. As they gear up, Kurumi awakens in a laboratory where drug experiments are being conducted. She sees her missing friend Kento and realizes that Tsukinoshita is leading the operation, attempting to extract a DNA sample from her to enhance the drug. However, the gang leader arrives, killing Tsukinoshita and ordering his men to eliminate all the doctors and test subjects. He demands a helicopter for his escape with Kurumi. On their way to the lab, Kaori asks Ryo where they're headed. He reveals that he planted a tracking device on Kurumi's necklace during their earlier encounter. However, the gang leader discovers the tracker and disables it. Aki contacts Ryo, informing him they've identified the organization, Union Taopi, a Central American syndicate that infiltrates global markets. In Japan, they operate under the guise of Lori Corporation. Meanwhile, the police discover Ito's body. Saiko orders a search of all his belongings, including his office, phone, and laptop. Ryo and Kaori reach Lori's headquarters and enter the building, discovering the bodies of everyone the gang leader ordered to be killed. They continue searching until they find the lab where the drug is being developed. However, they are ambushed by a large group of armed men who open fire on them. Ryo and Kaori take cover behind a wall. Ryo surprises the armed men, taking out many of them with Kaori's help. Kaori spots a stack of gas canisters and topples them over, allowing Ryo to shoot at them and cause an explosion, eliminating more enemies. One gunman nearly shoots Ryo, but Kaori saves him just in time. The gang leader appears, holding a weakened Kurumi hostage. He demands Ryo and Kaori surrender or face dire consequences. Ryo accuses him of having Makimura's blood on his hands and vows to kill him. The leader activates a chamber containing Ami, who is now injected with a massive dose of the drug, making him nearly invincible. The leader attempts to escape with Kurumi, while Ryo instructs Kaori to pursue them and stop them at any cost. The battle between Ryo and Ami is intense and grueling. Ami's enhanced strength proves challenging, but Ryo manages to dislodge Ami's mask and place a bomb in his mouth, which explodes and kills him. Meanwhile, Kaori catches up with Kurumi and the gang leader. He taunts Kaori, suggesting she wants revenge for her brother and biological father. Kaori, still unaware of her father's identity, listens as the leader reveals that her father was once a member of Union Teope. When he tried to leave the organization to protect Kaori, they turned him into a drug test subject. Makimura's father eventually killed him and adopted Kaori. The leader mocks her, claiming to have killed 2 of her family members and vowing to end her life as well. Enraged, Kaori tries to shoot him, but a glass barrier prevents her from reaching him. Ryo arrives and shoots through the barrier, wounding the leader. Kaori grabs Makimura's gun, aiming it at the gang leader. Overwhelmed with emotion, she trembles, crying and struggling to pull the trigger. Ryo gently takes the gun from her, knowing she is too kind-hearted to kill. The gang leader attempts to activate the chip in his neck to take Ryo down with him, but Ryo reverses Makimura's gun and fires the killing shot first. The police and paramedics arrive just in time. Later, Kaori visits Makimura's grave, while Kurumi returns to her normal life and social media presence. Back at home, Ryo wakes up to find Kaori in his house, declaring that she's moving in and becoming his new partner to replace Makimura. She also throws out all of Ryo's belongings she dislikes and enforces a new system for the house. Though Ryo protests, Kaori tells him they'll be living together for a long time, so he better accept it. The movie ends with Ryo reluctantly coming to terms with his new reality.